Hey everyone, this is the Bant Enchantment deck review. We're going to get right into it here. If you like what you're seeing, hit that subscribe button, ding that bell, so you can know when we put out any new content here on YouTube. All right, let's get into it. Sean, why don't you take the first commander here from the Bant Enchantment deck?
Great. Again, we're going to do the ones that, this is the Planeswalker one that is allowed to be your commander. We're going to do those three first, the three specific Bant ones, and then all the new cards and then the reprints. So, first up in the three Bant commanders is Estrid the Masked. 1 green, white, blue for a legendary Planeswalker, Estrid, obviously. She starts with 3 loyalty and has 3 abilities. The first one is a +2 loyalty. Untap each enchanted permanent you control. Interesting. I mean, it takes some work to set that up, so there's a very strong chance that that first ability does literally nothing.
Yeah.
-1, create a white aura enchantment token named Mask attached to another target permanent. The token has enchant permanent and totem armor. Okay, now we're talking. So you use the -1 first, you enchant something with your totem armor Mask, and now you get to untap it whenever you activate her first ability. So that protects a creature. We know that totem armor means if this creature would be destroyed, instead you throw away the enchantment with totem armor and you keep it alive. So this is great. It's a way to protect some creatures. That's a very useful ability.
Protect some permanents, really. Yeah, but yeah.
Protects permanents. That's true. I did say creature, but it means permanent. Now, -7. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You can use it on the third turn of her existing. Put the top 7 cards of your library into your graveyard. Return all non-aura enchantment cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. Then do the same for aura cards. Estrid the Masked can be your commander. Now, this ultimates with Planeswalkers are always tricky to get to, and you should never sort of expect and build around the ultimate because it's so difficult to do. But I will say this, that Wizards has been very reluctant to let us play around with non-aura enchantments. There's tons of ways to get auras, and there's a lot of ways to tutor for auras, and I think they have to be small enchantments, but there are some bonkers enchantments out there, and Wizards has been very reluctant to just let us throw them around easily. But here's one way where that's possible now.
Yeah, well, I mean, you return all non-aura enchantment cards, and then you do the same for auras. So this ultimate actually throws all your enchantments in the garbage that aren't auras. Right?
What do you mean?
Put the top 7 cards of your library into your graveyard. Return all non-aura enchantment cards from your graveyard. Great. Oh, sorry, it's enchantment cards. My bad. I read that wrong. I thought it was non-aura cards.
No.
And then like enchantments stay there. No. Okay, so great. This is that's way better than I thought. Thank you very much for reading the card.
Yeah, they don't make it easy to sneak omniscience down, but this is one way to do it.
Yeah, it is. You're right. I like Estrid the Masked. I think you don't even really need to be in a dedicated enchantment deck for this to be pretty good, simply because the -1 ability protects any permanent you have, which is pretty solid. And then if it's something that cares about tapping, you're going to town with it. And like, so this is as happy, I think, in like in a tapping on tapping, wizard kind of deck, anything that deals with that kind of stuff. So I love it when you can see the two like roads that a commander can go down. And I think Estrid has obviously the enchantment road. She has like an aura, specifically only aura mode, and then I think she's also got like this tapping untapping mode that they all cross over obviously with her, and I think that's really good. That's really well done.
Pretty cool.
She sort of protects herself in some ways in that +2, if you have a creature that's enchanted, you can untap it and now it is protecting. But I think that's pretty, I don't know. Or the -1 like puts the mask on something, and then now that thing can block even if it would die. It's gonna be around. So like she protects herself best of probably the ones who don't make little tokens, which is Saheeli.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, cool, great. I like this card. You like this card?
I'm not sure.
I love Bant. Bant is my favorite 3-color combo basically. So I'm like more excited about it, I think.
Good. I'm glad you're excited about it. I just don't. It doesn't play in a line with anything that I feel like I like doing that much.
Oh, really? Okay. All right. Well, let's see what else we got here then. One of the other commanders included, the Marquee 3 here, is Castilla, the Cultivator. 1 and Bant, so 1 green, white, blue. For a legendary enchantment creature, a nymph. Okay, sure. Theros block. All right. A 4/4 with Bestow for 6, so 3 and Bant. So you, as with the Bestow creatures, it's more to bestow them because you actually get a bit more out of them when you bestow them. So bestowing is that if you cast this card for its bestow cost, it's an aura spell with enchant creature. It becomes a creature again if it's not attached to a creature. So that even includes if the thing you go to enchant is taken out from under it at instant speed. Castilla will try to enchant it, but if it's on the battlefield and it can't enchant something, it'll just become a creature again. So
yeah, the
risk of getting blown out that usually accompanies auras is gone with bestow because you'll at least get a creature out of it, so you don't lose the card. Now what Castilla does besides bestow is enchanted creature gets +4/+4, and whenever an enchanted creature or enchantment creature you control attacks, draw a card.
That's going to result in a lot of cards drawn, I think.
Yeah, I think so too, right? Obviously you will be caring about auras and things and enchantments in this deck, so yeah, it's a great card draw engine. Seems like a very good commander to me. This is the first bestow commander, which is important to note because I think a bunch of us have been talking about, why wasn't there a bestow creature commander? And I think if you look back at that block, the Theros block, there was one that really stood out as something that probably should have been a legendary, and it was Chromanticore. Yes. And I know that there are some play groups that allow Chromanticore as a commander, and I think that's a nice bit of errata, so to speak. I think that can be fine.
Now, for the rules, can I pay 6 no matter what my tax is up to, or is that in addition to bestow? Bestow, I believe, is an alternative casting cost, so it's not subjected to the same tax. Am I wrong?
Ooh, wow, that is a good question. Now, the commander, no, because you do cast this card. It's just that now it costs 6. So I think the tax is still applied.
The tax is still applied, so it costs 6 + 2 the next time.
Yeah.
Oof.
I think that
prohibitive.
Yeah, it does. It certainly does. But when you think about it, if you cast the bestow version of Castilla the first time, right, you kind of get her twice, right?
Yeah.
So you get her on the creature, and then if they somehow deal with the creature or whatever, that's fine because then Castilla becomes a creature, and now you have her again. So she kind of has that redundancy built into her, which is nice.
And then the next time you cast her for her regular cost +2, which makes her the same as her bestow cost.
There you go.
If you need to.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, I like that. Yeah.
Interested. Again, I don't have like an enchantment base deck. They're just notoriously bad card advantage, right? Like you're setting yourself up for they have to be so good.
You need a commander with hexproof is what people will tell you if you're looking to get really good with them, right?
So I just don't know, like if I were to build a Castilla deck, I'd be like, I don't know, like it just seems so glass, made of glass.
And I guess the Castilla, the thing built in about her is that like she does give you that card advantage back if you get to attack with those creatures. So she mitigates some of that risk, and she herself also again mitigates some of the risk with the bestow. So I like it, but like I do want to have multiple creatures with auras on them as opposed to just one, which is the traditional way of doing it. But I like this idea of like a go wide aura deck. Like that seems kind of interesting. Yeah. Sure, I'll try and build that deck. Why not? Okay. What's next?
And then last up is Vasa the Sunlit. Just green, white, blue, straight 3 for a legendary merfolk shaman. And Vasa is a 1/1 and says, Vasa the Sunlit gets +1/+1 for each enchantment you control. Whenever you cast your first enchantment spell each turn, draw a card. Nice.
Yeah. Okay.
It's an enchantress.
It is an enchantress, but only for the first one.
Only the first one, and there aren't that many with flash, but that's one way you can get it on opponents' turns. You could cast flash ones there to draw cards too. I mean, it doesn't excite me as a main commander, but I think in a Bant enchantment deck, this is a fantastic lieutenant.
Yes, good call. This
Not
is a nice
to confuse it with the loyal.
with the actual lieutenant. Yeah,
right.
Definitely a good card in the 99 of any Bant enchantment deck for sure. Also, the like okay to decent commander of the full Merfolk tribal.
Right, you get the white Merfolk from
like Lorwyn and those that block. So
yes,
because originally Merfolk were like blue and white, and then
but there were also some blue-black ones, weren't there?
Oh, I'm sure they like cross over. I'm sure they're definitely like, for example, I know a blue
Sig is
red.
a famous blue-black one.
Yes, and there's a blue-red one. Red's in the activated cost in a Theros one. So technically Merfolk kind of span, but really what we see in Merfolk in strongly is blue, obviously, and then blue-white for the Lorwyn block, and then blue-green in obviously in Ixalan here.
Yeah, cool.
But I think it's great. I love it. Like, so it doesn't have any specific tribal synergies, but you know, for those people who want the Bant Merfolk deck, here's the commander. It's right on theme for you.
There you go.
And I'm sure you can, you know, throw a few enchantments in there and get some added bonus out of it. Draw some cards. Yeah, cool. I like Vasa. I mean, it's obvious a build around that works however you want it to work and has some other kind of like random upside for those Merfolk players.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's look at the other new cards that are not the three main commanders of the deck.
Right.
Let's talk about Loyal Drake, or let's not, because we already did talk about it in the Saheeli artifact deck review, so never mind. But we do like this guy as a lieutenant. Said it was pretty solid because it draws you cards. Anyways, next is Ravenous Slime. This one's been getting a lot of talk. People excited about this card. Ravenous Slime is a 2 and a green for the ooze. It's a 1/1. It can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. And if a creature an opponent controls would die, instead exile it and put a number of +1/+1 counters equal to that creature's power on Ravenous Slime.
Wow.
So, I mean, 3 mana 1/1, not impressive. But it can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. So that's kind of interesting. But really what that's for is when your guy gets really huge and you just have to let it sit there, and creatures will die.
Can't be chumped.
If for some, you know, and I think the idea with this deck is that you give it a mask, or you give it some other protective ability or enchantment or something, and you make it so that it's very hard to get rid of this guy, and then other things die. This gets massive, gets very difficult to block it. You can't just chump it with 1/1s or even 2/2s. So
the turn where you mask the Ravenous Slime and then drop a board wipe, so everything dies and then gets exiled, actually, and then Ravenous Slime becomes a million.
Wow. Yeah. Yikes. That's mean. Holy.
Yeah.
So if these creatures would die, so if they would go to the graveyard, you do also get to exile them. That alone is a very good ability, right? Like,
again, we've been preaching it on the show for a while now. Your board wipes, if you can manage it, spend the extra mana to get ones that exile creatures.
For sure.
Because ones that make creatures die enable things like this.
Yeah.
And your opponents do not get to sack their creatures for any use because you still get stuff out of it.
Yeah, and so someone was telling me about this card. I can't remember. I think it might have been Guy. He was telling me, he was like, have you seen that new card, the Ravenous Slime card? He explains everything to me as it is on the card, and then says that whenever a creature dies, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. And he's like, that's crazy. And I was like, no. It's +1/+1 counters equal to the creature's power that died on him. Like, it's so as just +1 counter on him. We had a friend of ours who was excited about this card, and rightfully so. That still would have been very good. The fact that it's the power and it just gets massive is like, well, I mean, it's just silly.
Yeah, it's just silly.
This death eventually will wiggle toward all of you.
Yep.
Just a big wiggling jello coming at you that you know is going to kill you when it has skulls for heads coming out of its arms, kind of.
Very
I love
creepy.
it. The art on this is great. I love this card. I love this card all over. It's amazing.
Top to bottom.
Top to bottom. Ravenous Slime gets a full-on A+.
Next we get a cool one. We get Arixmethes, Slumbering Isle. 2 green, blue for a legendary Kraken. It is 12/12 for 4. Holy crow.
Holy crow.
So Eric Smithies enters the battlefield tapped with 5 slumber counters on it. As long as Eric Smithies has a slumber counter on it, it is a land. It is not a creature, parentheses. Whenever you cast a spell, you may remove a slumber counter from Eric Smithies. And then it taps to add green and blue. Right. So it's a land that taps for 2. And after you've cast your 5th spell, presuming you remove a counter every time, and also presuming there isn't an Atraxa who keeps proliferating this up.
Yeah. You'll
get a 12/12 before too long. That's pretty cool. This is a very unique card. There's that famous card that makes a 20/20 Merit Lage when it, like the one under the ice, but like this is different, but also interesting.
It is very interesting in that you cast this for 4. You
get 2 back right away.
You immediately get 2 back because it's very important that it notes that it is a land and it is not a creature, which means it does not have summoning sickness when you first cast it.
Right.
So you get that 2 back right away. But then the next turn, probably you have access to, let's say you hit your 5th land drop, 2 more from Eric Smithies. That's 7 mana. Like, you should be able to probably get all the counters off of it in that turn. Now, obviously, if you use it for that 2 mana, you're not attacking with it or anything that turn. But it's very interesting to note that even maybe with that 5 mana, you can do it. If you have like a Preordain and like a Mana Rock and then some other spell or something, like you might be able to hit 3 with that mana alone and then be attacking with a 12/12 on turn 5. So this is very cool. I keep saying it, but I got to say it again. I love the space they've gone with these other commanders. Like they've included 1 new commander aside from the Marquee 3 in each deck, and I think basically all of them are very cool, very fun new directions to take legendary creatures, and I think it's awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah, very, very cool. This seems like it's going to be able to be abused in like competitive EDH quite a bit, I feel like.
I don't know, man. 5 slumber counters. Like, you got like your 0.
Oh, it's 5? For some reason I thought it was 3. Sorry, my bad. So when I was telling you that math earlier, that was definitely wrong. But even still, 5 slumber counters isn't even that much. If you really, really build around making this, a creature on turn 5, I think you could do it.
I think you can do it.
Yeah. Anyways, love it. Think this is great. What kind of deck does this go in? What kind of, like, aside from a deck that's just built around getting Eric Smithies to hit, like, what deck does this go in?
It's so hard because I don't want to make this my commander because that's such a risky move. Because 12 damage isn't even enough to like finish the game. Like, you got to make 2 hits, and that's another turn your opponents get a chance to deal with it, and now it's a creature. Like, it just seems like as the main commander, I don't know. I think what I want to do with it is put in the 99 and get it down to 1 counter and just use it as a mana rock that I can transform into an attacking creature late in the game. Yeah. It's good wrath protection. If anyone decides to wrath, then you're just like, okay, on my next turn, I will cast my last spell and make it a 12/12 and hit you for 12 now. Like, yeah. I think that's where I want to put it. As wrath protection, you just hover with that last counter on. You don't take that last counter off until you need to. You might want to cast another spell, though. You kind of don't even have control over that, Well, you may remove a counter. You don't have to remove
the counters. Oh, yeah, it is a may. Wow, look at that. Okay.
So you leave it as a land as long as it's useful, and then when you decide I need to go into action, then it's time.
And it certainly feels like if you would put a 4 mana creating 2 mana rock in your Simic decks, or Sultai for that matter, anything, you might as well just include this.
Sure.
Like, it's not as easy to cast, obviously, because it requires the colored mana, but it's better in that it produces colored mana on top of that. So
yeah,
interesting. Very cool card, though. I'm excited about it. I think it's great.
Cool.
And I obviously should have read it along with you while you were reading it, because I did just assume quite a few things about that card.
That's all right. I do that too.
All right. Next card is Loyal Unicorn, which we talked about in the Esper deck. So go take a look at that. But very quickly, we did like it quite a bit. Loyal Guardian, again, also just mentioned in the Jund deck, so we won't get into it, but it's yet another lieutenant card that we thought was quite good.
We like all of them.
Overall, we're quite pleased with the loyals cycle here, and lieutenant, happy to have lieutenant back. Here's the next one we haven't talked about yet. Heavenly Blade Master, 5 and a white for a 3/6 angel with flying and double strike. When Heavenly Blade Master enters the battlefield, you may attach any number of auras and equipment you control to it. Other creatures you control get +1/+1 for each aura and equipment attached to Heavenly Blade Master.
Wow.
Yeah, I think so. Yes, I'll take it. I will put it in every single aura or equipment deck I've ever seen and be very, very happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't add anything to that. For sure, you're going to get your Swiftfoot boots or your Lightning Greaves. So she's also got haste, so she's coming in that turn too, with flying and double strike and all the billions of bonuses. Very nice.
Yeah, I mean, not much to say about this other than it's fantastic. The fact that you can even leave certain equipment or auras on certain creatures that you still want. It doesn't have to take everything. It's great. Yeah. Those creatures are still going to get buffed, so even though they might lose some things, they're still getting buffed by Heavenly Blade Master. Just fantastic. Great card.
Okay, next up is our preview card, Nylea's Colossus. 6 and a green for an enchantment creature giant. Nylea's Colossus is a 6/6 with Constellation. They're bringing it back. Whenever Nylea's Colossus or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, double target creature's power and toughness until end of turn. There you go. We talked about it a lot when we previewed it, but just to summarize, being able to double power and toughness is an ability that can get out of hand really, really quickly by the mere fact of an enchantment entering the battlefield. Estrid's minus ability makes an enchantment enter the battlefield, so that's a 0 mana way to do it. And if you build around it, there's a lot of enchantments that you get to like bring back from the graveyard for cheap, cast them for cheap, take them off your creatures, put them back on. So if you really want to, you can build an engine where you can just double anybody's power and toughness in no time.
Yep, not much else to say there. Just really great to see Constellation come back, and I think aside from the classic Enchantress abilities of whenever an enchantment comes in, you draw a card or whatever, I think it's green specifically really needed another like really good Constellation trigger. Here. Yeah, so this is great. And again, thanks for Wizards for giving us that free preview. It was really great. All right, Astrids Invocation is the next one. This is the one I think I'm the most excited about. I think this card's awesome. 2 and a blue for an enchantment that says you may have Astrids Invocation enter the battlefield as a copy of any enchantment you control, except it gains at the beginning of your upkeep. You may exile this enchantment. If you do, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. So it's a clone for enchantments, only ones that you control, mind you. However, at the beginning of your upkeep, you get to blink it and have it come in as any other one that you control. So you can, cast this, have it be something you already have, and next time, when you cast your big better enchantments later, guess what? This becomes one of those now. So fun.
It can blink in as a Nylea's Colossus and double something right away as itself.
That is true. It certainly can. Yeah. Wow.
What's better than 1 Mind's Dilation? 2 Mind's Dilation.
You read my mind, my man. Absolutely.
Did I dilate your mind?
You sure did. I'm thinking only of Mind's Dilation with this card. Yep. Absolutely love it.
Oh goodness.
Mind's Dilation, obviously the big 7-mana enchantment that whenever an opponent casts something, you then flip the top card of the library and you get to cast that for free.
Oh, so double it, please.
So 2 of them sounds really great to me.
I'm excited about this card because, as I referred to earlier, Wizards doesn't let you mess around with enchantments that easily. Like, they're a bit cautious when it comes to that. But now we get to copy one.
It's weird that they're that cautious with enchantments, and they truly are. But less cautious, it seems like, with artifacts.
Yeah, I know.
Which are the more traditionally broken.
Maybe they're already like that. That door has closed ages ago. Who cares?
Yeah. Okay. Sean's green screen going a little crazy. Anyways, what's the next one here?
Ooh, this one, I'm excited about this one. You know I love attacking. Ever Watching Threshold, 2 and a blue for an enchantment. Whenever an opponent attacks you and or a planeswalker you control with 1 or more creatures, draw a card. So it's an interesting take on a propaganda type effect. Propaganda prevents attacks, which makes it a superior card. But if they choose to attack you, they do have to give you something, which is, I think, a good deterrent.
Yeah. Like, what's worse, not being able to, or being able to and then like kind of not caring that your opponents draw? Like, I think that's kind of better in the early game, almost, you know, like because you get to go through your deck a bit more, whereas like propaganda, propaganda just gets worse as the game goes on too, I suppose. I guess they all kind of do. But I mean, it's kind of a redundant effect in that, and I'm happy to have one that lets me draw cards. That's for sure.
I'm especially happy to have this in those environments where attacking is encouraged, right? I want to encourage attacking, and then they have to choose like, well, you can attack me if you want to, but I'm going to benefit from it.
Yeah, like it's interesting that this is in this deck, and where's the card that forces attacks? Is that a red card?
Oh, it was Gyrus, the walking corpses, I think. No, the spider, the Jund spider.
Oh, the spider does, right. So that wouldn't even be able to go in there because it's Jund.
No,
all right,
unfortunately.
But I think this is cool. I like this. I like this effect.
I like it.
Yeah. Next we have Myth Unbound. This one's exciting. 2 and a green for an enchantment that says your commander costs one generic less to cast for each time it's been cast from the command zone this game. So this halves your commander tax.
Yep.
Right? And it will continue to do that. Because every time you add 2, but Myth Unbound minus is 1. So there you go. So your commander tax now is only 1 per each turn. And whenever your commander is put into the command zone from anywhere, draw a card.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
There are a few commanders that really want to be cast, and you want them to be cast again. Like Marath, I think. It has the more you've spent on it. I know that... what's the name of it? The one with Cascade?
Oh, Maelstrom Wanderer.
Maelstrom Wanderer.
Mm-hmm.
That one, you want to get rid of it and you want to cast that again. So like cards like this are excellent in those kinds of decks. This is a great card. Do you run it in a generic deck though? If just on the chance that your commanders sometimes will die and you will sometimes want to cast it again. Is that worth this card?
I would put this in sort of in a generic way in decks that really want their commander out, where the commander is like definitely a piece of the puzzle. You know what I mean? Now, obviously, that's probably true for all commander decks in some regard. But if I'm talking about like ones where like this deck doesn't really win without my commander type of stuff.
Okay.
It's definitely very good for those Voltron decks, though, because I think those are the commanders that are more likely to get removed more often because they are the threat of the deck, right? So if you can constantly be getting rid of a Voltron player's commander, it makes it prohibitively more expensive and harder for them to win the game that way. Whereas like you get Myth Unbound out, and all of a sudden, well, not only when you kill my commander does it replace itself in my hand, but I still get to cast it for pretty cheap.
All that's true, but philosophically, is it not just better replaced with a card that does the job you want to do better? Because this is a card that only works if you're not doing your job well. Like, if I'm doing my job poorly, this kind of helps me come back. If my deck is running well, this card does literally nothing.
True. That is true. That is a good point. I wouldn't be as hard on yourself about it, though. Like, it doesn't mean you're doing it poorly necessarily.
I don't necessarily. Right. People are going to sub. But I mean, like, it's one of those examples where it's like, is this just better off served with another card that protects your commander in other ways, like a counter spell,
or example. Something with hexproof or something like, of that nature,
right?
You may well be right about that.
I don't know if this is good enough for a slot in your 99.
You would rather see it as something that just does the job in a bit. Yeah, I honestly I think I agree with you on that.
Like, again, special cases aside, I think Maelstrom Wanderer, those where your commander comes out and you kill it yourself immediately, those ones for sure. Yeah. But I think the average deck, like, how many times are you casting your commanders?
Also,
not 6.
Also, it's very worth pointing out that this is a green card, the ramp color. So that commander tax is felt the least in green.
Yeah.
Or in decks that have green. So the fact that this is a green card, that's kind of, that brings it down a bit as well. Now, obviously, I think this probably would be too much if it was like colorless or something. So I think it belongs in green. I think that's correct, probably. But yeah, how effective is it? It's definitely one of those cards that looks really flashy and like looks like, oh man, this like usurps a rule kind of. Like those things are generally quite powerful. And I think they, like you said, in those decks that really want to be doing those things, it is very powerful.
Yes.
And it is usurping that rule, which makes it very, very good. But yeah, in a general sense, like maybe it's it's probably not as good as it looks maybe.
I think so. I think it's overrated right now based on the discussions.
I think you're right about that.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. What's the next one?
Oh, Octopus Umbra. This is another Totem Armor. So again, if a creature is destroyed with this on it, you lose the Umbra, and they stay alive. So this is 3 blue for an enchantment aura, enchant creature. Enchanted creature has base power and toughness 8/8 and has, whenever this creature attacks, you may tap target creature with power 8 or less. Interesting.
Interesting that it changes the base power toughness. It doesn't add +8/+8, which is what most of the Umbras, the previous Umbras do. But this is notable that this is a new Umbra, a new card with Totem Armor, which they haven't done. But they've been doing that a lot. They've been pulling back a lot of old abilities in this set, which is fun. Constellation being one of them, of course.
Constellation, Evoke.
So yeah, I think this is like fine though, right? Like even if it is just making a creature 8/8, like if it's a Voltron thing you're going for, this still just ups that power toughness because the thing you have is probably, like a 2/2 or 3/3 or whatever.
Yeah, and it's going to stay alive through an extra combat, and it's going to tap something. There's very few things with power 8 or greater than 8 that are going to be in your way anyway.
Yeah, that ability is not... Like, that's the least exciting part of it, though, too, right? Like, sure, you can tap a creature, but you're probably trying to make it unblockable, or at least that has flying. I guess like if it has flying on top of that, that's really good, but it's basically unblockable. But yeah, I don't know. I'm
a little bit underwhelmed.
Yeah, I am too. 5 mana is a lot. There are other Totem Armor auras that are much less and therefore better. This card's fine, but not that exciting.
Yep.
And finally, for this deck, for the new cards, we have Genesis Storm, which is 4 and 2 green for a sorcery that says when you cast this spell, copy it for each time you've cast your commander from the command zone this game. So again, this is part of that Commander Storm cycle. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a non-land permanent card. You may put that card onto the battlefield, then put all cards revealed this way that weren't put on the battlefield on the bottom of your library in a random order. So this is a Genesis wave, but the commander is going to be the multiplier here. So you're paying 6. Sorry, go ahead. This is exciting. So like we've been saying, you're looking to get maybe 3 off of this if you can. Obviously, more is really great, but 6 mana to cast this, and then get 3 or 4 rather. So 3 copies plus the original. That's what we're looking for here. So 4 permanents straight into the battlefield. That seems worth it for 6. Compare this to the black one that's 9.
I know, and it just makes a couple of sacrifices. I think the black one tied to that halving of the life is why they made it so expensive. It's just let me sack a bunch of creatures.
Yeah.
Anyways,
the Genesis, but this seems legit.
So it is tough to control what you get with this. It is very difficult to build a deck without many permanents in it. Decks without a lot of permanents tend to be red and blue with lots of instants and sorceries. Maybe you're going to do instants or sorceries that, create creatures. So you're probably not going to get to know what you cheat into. But what if this is just the splash of green? It's a teamer. Maybe I'm envisioning a teamer deck.
You reveal cards until you get a non-land permanent.
Right. So I want to put this in a deck that's mostly red and blue. It's a teamer deck.
Okay, so you want it in there. Okay.
It's mostly red and blue, and the only permanents I have are massively impactful permanents that further my deck's thing. Right. So that I know I'm going to get my 2 or 3 giganto permanents.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And I think that's where it's kind of at home in this deck, in that you're going to have a lot of cool enchantments, and that's kind of what you want to hit. There's also some big creatures. That's obviously another thing you'll be up for hitting. You know, I think this goes in a lot of decks, both ones that are going to manipulate it so that they get very specific things, but also ones that are going to just want the chaos of it, like, you know, and also just the ones that have big overcosted things. I think Genesis Storm is going to be right at home in a lot of different decks. I think it's going to be pretty good.
And this is another case where maybe couple this with Myth Unbound that allows you to cast your commander. This is when it becomes a bit more interesting. But again, in those, like, again, it goes with my teamer idea that Maelstrom Wanderer, maybe I need to build this deck. Maelstrom Wanderer, mostly spells and instants, but a few big permanents. Yeah, okay, I'll do it.
Okay, I'll do it, sure. I'll take that challenge. Yeah. Great. Genesis Storm. The Storm ones in general we were quite pleased with, right? The new Commander Storm cards. The red one seemed pretty good. The blue one was good. The red one. What was the white one?
There was no white one.
No.
The white one was, unfortunately, was never allowed to see the light of day.
No. Are you? No, there is one. We just missed it. We must have missed it.
Did we miss it? Oh, yeah. That's on me then. I put these notes together. Which deck was it in? Imperial came from this one. Yeah, it's from this one. Perfect.
Okay, so yeah, all right. So maybe there actually is a white one, and here it is, Sean. Why don't you go ahead and read it?
Great. Imperial Storm, 4 white sorcery. When you cast the spell, copy it for each time you cast your commander. Create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying. So on its face, it's not worth it. If you get 2 angels for 6, that's pretty decent, and any more than 2, that's a good sorcery.
Yep. I think so too. This one is very straightforward. You can definitely like judge the body you're getting for the casting cost, whereas the other ones are all very variable, right? Like the blue one makes you like copy artifacts or whatever, and the black one is sacrifice and life loss and all this stuff. You don't know what you're getting with that. The green one, you're getting random stuff from your deck. But Imperial Storm, you're getting a 4/4 angel. If you cast your commander once, you're gonna get 2 of them. You get, it's very cut and dry. I think I want to put this in my Tristani deck. I think I want to put this in anything that cares about big tokens. So yeah, I think it's a good card.
Yeah.
6 mana for 3 or 4/4 angels. Like that's like Entreat the Angels. If you get 4 angels off of Entreat the Angels, that's really good, right?
Yeah. I worry that this is the kind of card that it's not impactful enough to just... I feel like this is going to get cut every time.
Oh, very interesting, man. Very interesting. So I have this Tristani deck that is geared towards big tokens, not 1/1s. We're talking about 4/4 angels. We're talking about 5/5 beasts and things like that. I definitely want this card. And do I want it over the enchantment that gives me an angel if I gain 4 or more life each turn?
I mean, not in Tristani. That enchantment gives you more angels over time in Tristani.
Yes, it certainly does. It can be hard to get going, though, just surprisingly. And the initial, like the one hit off of Imperial Storm is like maybe arguably better. I don't know. Anyways, I think you're probably right. I think that enchantment is probably better, but I think this is a good card for that deck. All right. Well, there you go. That's the Bant enchantment deck.
Those are the new cards.
For the 2018 pre-con for the new ones. Yeah.
A couple of reprints we are interested in is another Totem Armor. It's Bear Umbra, 2 green for an enchant creature, gets +2/+2, and has, whenever this creature attacks, untap all lands you control. That is always a dirty ability. That was above $10, so it's nice to see that reprinted.
Very nice to see that reprinted. And then we have Enchantress's Presence, 2 and a green for an enchantment that says whenever you cast an enchantment card, or spell rather, draw a card.
Yeah.
Straight
whenever
up.
Whenever you cast, not when it enters.
Exactly. Cast notable. Yep. It's not a constellation trigger. It's a cast trigger.
It's just a reprint that was created up to $10. The enchantresses are useful to put in there.
Yep. And again, that is it. That is all. Yeah. That is all we've seen here. when it comes to very notable cards, and that's a bummer. Again, don't want to beat a dead horse, but the reprints in this in these sets are definitely underwhelming and disappointing. I mean, look, are there some in here that we're happy to have in these decks? I mean, sure. Do I like Sakura Tribe Elder and Reclamation Sage and, you know, stuff like that? Yeah, but like those aren't stuff we were clamoring over, or needed, or you know. Anyways, so for the enchantment deck, we got a couple cool enchantments, but really, other stuff would have been better. Although this is one of the ones where I'm not super bummed out. Like there wasn't anything really that was like, this has to be in there, and then it wasn't.
Well, but what about Rancor?
Yeah, sure. Rancor would have been great.
Rancor should be in there. That's an enchantment that it goes along with the attacking strategies that's in this deck, and it comes back from your graveyard, so it gets you get to cast it again. It seems like a no-brainer to me.
I mean, they've obviously included a lot of cards in M19 that will work very well in this deck. There's the green-white Enchantress. There's the which is like a satyr.
Is it Wirewood Armor? The one that you can get back for green?
Yes, that's the one I was thinking, yeah. There's also but yeah, Imperial Armor would have been an interesting reprint for this. Imperial Armor is no, wait, that's not what I'm thinking of. What's the one that cares about it has to be enchanted already? It's like a crown.
Oh, Daybreak Coronet.
Daybreak Coronet, that's it.
Yeah, that's a modern card in the Boggles deck, and it's very expensive.
Yeah, and like it got a reprint. I mean, it's very expensive. It's like $11. Like it's not that bad. It's not a $50 card or something. You're not going to break the, you know, you're not going to crush the what's it called? I keep wanting to say ETB.
The EV.
The EV. It's not going to crush the EV of the deck. It's not going to crush the MSRP. You know, it's not going to make people, you know, go nuts over it or whatever. It'd just be a nice include.
Yeah.
You know,
it would be a nice include.
Anyways, if you want to hear us talk more about how we're disappointed in the reprints, go listen to the Jund version of this, or just rewind to the Jund part if you're audio listening.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, I think that's it, right?
Yep, that's all the decks.
It's all the decks. If you like this, thanks. Thanks for watching. That's it for us. We will see you guys next week with a full-on new Commander's Brew deck tech. Stay tuned. See you later.
Bye. Big thanks to all our patrons who make these episodes possible.
Yeah, and if you want to check out more comedy videos, check out our Brews News playlist.
Make sure you follow us on Twitch TV to see when we play live.
If you want to chat with us, head over to Twitter. We're at Commander's Brew.
And please hit subscribe to ding the bell and find out when we got new stuff coming out.
See you next time.
Bye.